Hi, thank you for joining me for lesson 15 of Sefer HaMitzvos. Uh, Shabbos has ended just recently, so Shavua Tov. We are covering, again, 13 commandments. Remember, there are 51 commandments during these 4 days where we are learning mitzvahs that relate to foreign worship or idolatry. And today we'll be covering, again, 13 commandments. So they are a mostly non or negative commandments and one positive. So we have negative commandment number 11, negative 12, negative 13, positive 185, negative 25, negative 22, 48, 50, 51, 30, 33, 31, and 32. The first mitzvah that we're covering is we are forbidden to set up a monument, which the Lord our God despises, which is a quote from uh, Deuteronomy 16, verse 22. And these are things that before Hashem permitted them, and um, even our forefathers erected monuments in the land of Israel. Um, Yaakov stood up a stone and anointed it, and that at that time was permitted. However, since the nations that previously occupied the land of Israel, the idolaters, did these things with regard to their idolatrous practices. And now we are forbidden to erect monuments. And it's forbidden because such a revered structure was a common practice amongst ancient idolaters. Okay. Kneeling stones. You shall not install a kneeling stone in your land to to bow down upon it. Leviticus 26:1 is where you'll find that. So what that means, it's forbidden for us to make a designated stone on which to bow down. So you would have a stone, and it might have some sort of engraving on it or something, and it would be in front of an idol, and you would bow down on this stone as you're prostrating yourself toward the idol. So this is forbidden because it was a common practice among these idolaters. Um, and so we're forbidden from doing that. But this has an application. What that means is that we are forbidden from kneeling down on stones, from prostrating on stones, everywhere except the temple. So in the holy temple is permitted to prostrate yourself on the stones that were the floor of the temple. So here, if we do prostrate ourselves in, let's say the synagogue had a stone floor, then rather than prostrating yourself directly on the stone floor, like we would do on holidays, um, you would have a mat or a rug to roll out. And this also would be why a lot of our synagogues now are carpeted or other solutions for that. That those keep us from violating this prohibition of prostrating ourselves or kneeling on stones in as worship. All right, trees in the temple. Deuteronomy 16:21 says, "Do not plant for yourself an Asherah of any tree near the altar of the Lord your God." So even if we want to make it look beautiful in the holy temple, we are not permitted to put a tree there, and that's because idolaters would have an Asherah tree, and so they would have this tree, and the idol, as far as I understand it, the idol would be placed beneath the tree, and people would bring offerings to the tree, and perhaps this tree is branched out and has fruit hanging from it, and then the fruit would be taken, fermented, made into a liquor that people would consume, and they would worship the idol there at that tree. And so the tree is, to my understanding, not the actual focal point of the worship, but it was there to beautify or give a home to the idol that is at the base of the tree. So we are not permitted to have those at the altar or anywhere on the temple. This is one distressing thing today, is that should make us very sad, is that our Temple Mount in Jerusalem has many trees, as far as I understand it, currently planted um, on the Temple Mount, and God willing, one day those trees will be removed. Deuteronomy 12:2 says that we are to destroy idols, and it says destroy all those places. So we're commanded to utterly eradicate all vestiges of idol worship in the land of Israel. We are not obligated to do so outside the land of Israel. One day, all of idolatry will be wiped out, as we say in the Aleinu at the end of davening. The idols will be all done away with, and in that day, our God's name will be one, meaning that everyone will know that the God of nature is Hashem, and everyone will worship Him on that day. May it be quickly and soon in our days. And so there are 4 ways that we are to destroy these idols: shatter, burn, destroy, or cut down. And the method that would be used would be whichever was most effective for each of those idols. And again, that would be done throughout the land of Israel. Benefiting from idolatry. Deuteronomy 7, verse 26 says, "Don't bring an offensive idol into your house." So, we're not to bring any idols into our home. And so that could even be this Asherah tree that we just talked about that people worshipped at. We're going to take some wood from that tree and we're going to throw it in the fire. That is not permitted. We don't bring those things into our homes. We are forbidden from benefiting from idolatrous decorations. So Deuteronomy 7:25 says, "Do not covet the silver or the gold that is on them." So let's say there's an idol, and on that idol there's jewelry or something like that that's adorning it. We are not permitted to take from that and benefit from it, which reminds me of the verse that says, "You who speak against idolatry, do you steal from temples?" And so we're not allowed to benefit from anything that's used to adorn an idol, even. All right. Deuteronomy 7:2 says, "You shall not make a treaty with them." And that's treaties with the 7 nations that were in the land of Israel, or in Canaan at that time. And we're not to make a treaty and allow them to live peaceably in our midst, with the caveat that unless they agree to abandon their pagan practices. Next, kindness toward idol worshippers. Deuteronomy 7:2 says, "Do not show mercy to them." We're not to show mercy to idol worshippers, nor are we permitted to praise them. We can't even say, how attractive they are. We're not to say anything that would give any positive attribute to that person if they're an idol worshiper. Um, Next, allowing idol worshippers to reside in the land of Israel. Exodus 23, verse 33 says, "They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me." So we are not to allow them to dwell in the land of Israel, lest we learn that their heretical ways, and it's forbidden to sell or rent real estate to an idol worshiper in the land. And even if an idol worshiper wants to pass through the land of Israel, we don't let them do so until they reject idolatry. So that is obviously these things are not in a or they not that they are not in effect, but these just show us right now that the situation that we have with the land of Israel is not a Torah-based government. Um, they're a government of Jews, but they are not obviously basing their government solely on the Torah, because we are not following these laws. One day, when Mashiach comes, we won't have some of these issues. But if there were, God forbid, still idolaters at that time, then we would be going back to this practice of they must denounce their idolatry before passing through the land. All right, the practices of heathens. Okay, Leviticus 20, verse 23 says, "You shall not walk in the practices of the nation that I am sending away before you." So we're forbidden as Jews from imitating the practices of idolaters, and I would extend that to also any Gentile who's forsaken idolatry should not be imitating the practices of idolaters. Even in those areas that aren't associated with those practices, so like their clothing, these kinds of things, the way they do things, what if in in Hebrew we call chukat goyim, or the ways of the nations, or in this case we're referring specifically to pagan nations. We are not um, to make them the standard by which we are even dressing. We dress differently as Jews. We eat differently. We speak differently. We should be a people who are separate from the world, so to speak, and as Gentiles um, who have forsaken idolatry, you also you've come to know the God of Israel through our Messiah, and so you should also um, separate yourselves from those worldly ways. Not to say that if you're a Gentile and you have, that you should necessarily dress as a Jew, etc. But we're not to imitate the ways of idolaters. Interpreting omens. Deuteronomy 18:10 says, "There shall not be found among you one who interprets omens." So the Medrash says, what is this? Someone says, "Oh, my bread fell out of my mouth as I was eating it. That means that this is going to happen." Or a snake passed on my right, or a fox on my left. Or nowadays we might say, a black cat crossed my path on the way as I was walking here. That means something bad is going to happen. We're not to interpret omens in that way, because Hashem is in charge of everything. We're not solely at the whim of stars and nature and cause and effect and happenstance. God is in control, and He alone we fear. Soothsaying. Deuteronomy 18:10 says, "There shall not be found among you a soothsayer." So it's forbidden to employ a psychic to stimulate their clairvoyant talents. You shouldn't become like strive to become a clairvoyant, somebody who's able to predict the future. However this person does it, they do something that causes them to have these abilities. We're not to seek that. And the person who seeks out and tries to get um, it's also not, it is forbidden to go to somebody like that, a psychic, etc. All right, and finally, astrology and divination. So Deuteronomy 18:10 says, "There shall not be found among you a diviner of times." So we're not to predict auspicious times or dates based on astrological formations. Say like, oh, this is a good day for this, but not this day because of the arrangement of the stars, or etc. It's forbidden to do so, and also, interestingly, the another application of this is we are not to do sleight of hand in order to deceive someone to think that we have some magical ability. And that's one you might want to look into, or maybe not. I don't know. Well, you probably should. Yeah, look into that. Because some of these things that some things that might just be seem like entertainment might be possibly problematic. So it'd be worth looking into um, to come to a better understanding of that. All right. So tomorrow, again, we have um, we have quite a few. I think 12 commandments to go over, and then we'll be done with the section of Avodah Zarah. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and God bless you. Shavua Tov, and with God's help, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.